Each and every Monday, I go over the biggest risers and fallers in average draft position, aka ADP, in the best ball markets. I'll discuss whether I'm buying or selling these players at their new prices and why. The idea is to get you up to speed very quickly on what's happening out there in drafts and how to adjust. All right, let's begin with the risers from the last 7 days. First riser to discuss is Derrick Henry. The big dog himself is up 2.3 spots to 31 overall on Underdog. From a straight projection standpoint, it is hard to get there on Derrick Henry. You can listen to episode 730 for more on that. But the bottom line is once you give Lamar Jackson a bunch of carries, once you give Lamar Jackson a bunch of rushing touchdowns, you combine that with Derrick Henry's career receiving rates and Lamar Jackson's historicals or lack thereof at targeting running backs, and then you give some natural age decay also as the big dog enters his age 30 season. I mean, Derrick Henry is not going to look good. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be drafting him, right? He doesn't look good in projection relative to ADP, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be drafting him. I actually thought that Derrick Henry was pretty good last season, despite being 29 years old with poor quarterback play and one of the NFL's worst offensive lines. Derrick Henry was 17th in rush yards over expectation per attempt. He was 7th among 63 qualifying running backs in PFF grades. He was 4th among all running backs in broken tackles forced. So I'm a bit wary of projecting some steep decline in Derrick Henry's play or usage. I mean, the Ravens have him on a 2-year, $16 million deal. They are incentivized to run him into the ground. And the only time a coach hasn't run Henry into the ground is when his team is losing. I think the Ravens are going to be very good this year, and the market agrees. I mean, Ravens' implied win total is roughly 11 wins. So, look, a lot of this is going to come down to volume and touchdowns. If Derrick Henry can still handle 300 carries at age 30 with Lamar stealing some, and the Ravens are in the red zone a lot and feature him there, then yes, he's going to smash. There is some risk on that stuff, though, which is why Derrick Henry is going in round 3. That said, on half PPR Underdog, where there's no bonuses, it's just absurdly touchdown heavy. And what doesn't show up in the full season projection is the way to generate huge weeks is to score multiple touchdowns in a game. And of course, Derrick Henry is among the biggest favorites in the league to do that, multiple touchdown games. So yes, on touchdown heavy Underdog, I am still in on Derrick Henry, even as his price rises here at 31 overall. The wild thing about it is the big dog is way worse play on DraftKings. I mean, way worse. It's full PPR. It's so slanted towards wide receiver production. And yet Derrick Henry's ADP on DraftKings is 22.8, up from 24 last week, so up 1.2 spots. And so I get, like none of Derrick Henry on DraftKings right now, which is scary. But yeah, it's just so expensive. Second riser to talk about is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is up 1.6 spots to 48.6 overall. I'm going to back into this one a bit as I just continue to get higher and higher on Jayden Daniels. I've taken Jayden Daniels so much. At first, I was only taking Daniels on teams where I was behind at quarterback. I needed upside in that 9th, 10th, 11th round. And then I started targeting Jayden Daniels in some 2 quarterback builds, just trying to compile a nice size bet on a player who, if he hits, actually hits in a massive way, I think, thanks to his rushing ability. But what I just started doing lately more is taking Terry McLaurin at ADP or past ADP when he's there. And it's not like I have a strong take on McLaurin. I think his ADP is fine. I'm not fist pumping it in where he goes here, at 48.6 overall. But before, all my Daniels teams included almost exclusively Jahan Dotson and or, Brian Robinson and or Ben Sinnott, Luke McCaffrey. But if Jayden Daniels hits in that massive way that I'm talking about, the most likely outcome is that Terry McLaurin pays off his ADP nicely. So anyway, this is a long way of saying that I'm not really in on McLaurin as he gets more expensive, but I am in on Jayden Daniels. And when I'm setting up teams that don't go elite QB, then Terry McLaurin becomes more interesting to me. I just don't want all my Daniels stacks to look the same. I'll just end up with way too much Jahan Dotson, which, shout out Penn State, I'm okay with that, but some of the numbers on Jahan Dotson are certainly concerning. I don't want to get too big of a position there. Third riser is Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson up 4.4 spots to 81 overall on DraftKings. I suspect this is partially related to the contract news. 4 years, $36 million extension with $17 million guaranteed. Not a ton of money, but puts him sixth among all running backs in average annual value, behind only Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, and Josh Jacobs. So, yeah, it's a solid commitment, but I'm not sure it changes anything for our purposes, the contract. We have a fine running back on arguably the worst offense in the entire NFL with a brutal offensive line, and his pass game role is threatened by pass game specialist Antonio Gibson, who's the new backup. So I thought Stevenson ADP was okay where he went before in that 85, 87 range, but I prefer Zamir White. I prefer DeAndre Swift. It's really the next tier of running backs who I like a lot, which is why I pass on Ramondre. Those Zach Moss, Najee, Warren, and then the next tier, Trey Benson, Tajee Spears, Devin Singletary, Brian Robinson, Chase Brown, etc. I'm fine with all those guys, which is why I pass Ramondre. I'll pass on Ramondre a lot, and certainly going to pass here as he keeps getting more expensive. But I get it that Ramondre is at least ticketed for projectable workload. I just think the situation is such a mess. And yeah, if you go back and read Thorne's offensive line stuff, does not sound great for the Patriots. Let's get to this week's fallers. First faller I want to talk about is Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, second-year Vikings wide receiver, down 3.3 spots on DraftKings to 82 overall. I'm confused by this one. We have a year 2 wide receiver who went 70, 9, 11, 10 as a rookie, now entering his age 22 season. And Jordan Addison plays for one of the most pass catcher friendly schemes in the NFL. And he's in a dome 11 times this year. And TJ Hawkinson's going to miss a ton of time as he rehabs. And there's still no wide receiver 3 in Minnesota who's going to earn targets. The only thing I can think of why Jordan Addison is dropping is because people are spooked by the Sam Darnold stuff. And yeah, I agree. Sam Darnold is a favorite to start week 1 ahead of JJ McCarthy right now. And yes, I think both Darnold and year 1 McCarthy are a downgrade on Kirk Cousins. But let's not go too far. I mean, this is a scheme that yielded reasonable outings from both Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs. Mullins went over 300 yards in 3 of his 4 starts last year. I know 2 of them were against the Lions, but still. So yes, I definitely take Jordan Addison over Ramondre when I'm on the clock there, even if I need running back. We're currently 18 spots ahead of ADP on our DraftKings rankings on Jordan Addison. Reminder, you can upload our rankings if you have the best ball sub to the site of your choice. Second faller to talk about is Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert down 3 spots to 115 overall. Dallas Goedert been in the NFL for 6 years now, has never scored more than 5 touchdowns in a season. I've been banged up for a lot of those, including last year. But still, it's surprising to me that Goddard hasn't been more productive, given how talented he is, given the fact that the Eagles have rarely had a viable third wide receiver, given how good their offense has been of late. As for the setup this year on Goddard, age 29 season, again, no real threat at wide receiver. Might be like Paris Campbell or one of the rookies. The thing is, Kellen Moore at offensive coordinator, I think is a good thing for everyone and for Goddard. And I know they're installing a new offense. I don't think it can hurt Goddard. And the price is just so fair. I mean, 115 overall on Goddard. We're pretty above market. We're above market decently in terms of rank. But the more interesting point to me when thinking through Goddard is the tight end landscape this year. The more I've thought about it, in large field best ball contests, I'm trying to get one of the top 7. The tier that ends with Evan Ingram. But if I miss there, or if I'm in something smaller field, the Brock Bowers Goddard combo interests me, and one of those guys interests me. It's tough because a lot of the running backs I like in my preferred hero 0 RB builds go around there also. But after Bowers and Goddard, I think there's a pretty massive drop-off at tight end. I'm not sure the talent and the role for the guys beyond that is just enough to stand out in a given week. So obviously I get Goddard as part of my Jalen Hurts stuff. That's easy. And I like Hurts stuff on underdog, especially where quarterback means more. But I'm also okay with Goddard or Bowers as a desperation pull at 115 overall, as the lead of a 3 tight end room. So you have no tight ends yet, a naked Bowers or naked Goddard, plan to go with 3 tight ends. I think that makes sense, especially for smaller field stuff. Final guy to talk about today is Keon Coleman, Bills rookie, down 3.8 spots on underdog to 75 overall. Only surprise to me is that this one has taken a bit of time. I just can't get on board with a guy who was the eighth wide receiver off the board in his class. Shaky-ish profile for Keon Coleman. He's part of what could be a heavy rotation at wide receiver on a team who had success going to a more run-heavy approach late last year. So Keon Coleman in the 60s, I didn't get him a single time. Here at 75, I might try to get him as part of Allen stacks. We have Keon Coleman ranked 85 overall on underdog, and I think eventually his ADP will get there. And then at that point, I'll be more interested in Coleman. I mean, easy then as part of Josh Allen stacks, but maybe naked because, one thing is I don't really love the Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel stacks. I think they're expensive relative to downside. And I really like Dalton Kincaid. But if I miss on Kincaid, I'm trying to set up an Allen stack and I miss on Kincaid, I'd love to be able to stack Keon Coleman with Josh Allen. It's just right now, I can't stomach it at 75 overall too often. But, I'm getting more tempted. No doubt about that. All right. That is going to do it for this week's Market Monday. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you have not yet subscribed to the Established to Run podcast, be sure you are by searching for it anywhere podcasts are found. Also, be sure you subscribe to our YouTube. It's free. Really think you get a big benefit out of watching a lot of these shows and the unique content up there on YouTube. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for a ton more player takes at Adam Levitan. That's going to do it for this week's show. We'll be back with Silva. Yes, you heard that right. We'll be back with Silva in a few days here to go over top 150 rankings changes and all the news that you may have missed from minicamp. So stay tuned. For producer Luke, for editor Jackson, for the most beautiful beast in the world, Jerry, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.